We're going out onto Facebook, YouTube, and X. I also have my phone here so I can take a look at it to make sure it's going out live. And let's see, YouTube. Connection's good. Let's see here. Facebook, X, there we go. We are live, ready to go. Yes, folks, since we're going out on three different platforms, YouTube, Facebook, and X, that's why first minute we just spend making sure all those connections are going well. Each one of them has their own individual hoops you got to jump through. Again, ChathamNC Sports Roundup. We're back here on Thursday with Asheebo, Rojas of the Chatham News and Record, myself, Gene Galin, of the Chatham Journal. Here's a quick look. We're not going to adhere to this because there's been such crazy stuff going on because of the weather, but basically Asheebo's got a whole bunch of information on the different changes in the sports schedule that have affected wrestling, basketball. We're going to talk about what's going on with Cam Fowler. Basketball power rankings, there was no updates this week, so we're not going to touch on that. And also we'll talk about some of the stuff that's starting and finishing up. And, of course, you got to pick up the Chatham News and Record today. This week's paper comes out. Weekly paper comes out every Thursday. But Asheebo will give you a quick rundown of what stories he's got in the print paper today. And then we'll also, of course, everyone's favorite, Asheebo's Athlete of the Week. So let me get rid of the graphic, and Asheebo, this is all yours.
Yeah, so as Gene said, and on the agenda, just wanted to start with the rescheduling of everything from the crazy weather we've had the last 2 weeks. Of course, we pretty much didn't have any sports going on in the county at all of last week. And we've got some more updates from the North Carolina High School Athletic Association as far as state championships for all the winter sports. So actually, we're going to start with wrestling, because that's the newest update we had today. So they're going to actually do the first and second round dual team matchups on February 10th through the 12th. So between those 3 days. And of course, those are going to be hosted by the higher seed. And then they're actually going to do the quarterfinals, semifinals, and the state finals between 2 days, February 16th through the 17th. And those are all going to be at a centrally located site that's going to be announced later on. It's just a reminder of our local dual team playoff matchup. So in 1A, we have number 3 Chatham Central on the east side going to match up against number 6 News Charter first, and that's going to be at number 2 Northeast Carolina Prep. So that's where they'll wrestle, and then of course winner of that will get to wrestle Northeast Carolina Prep in that next round. And then in 3A, number 8 Northwood, also on the east, will be wrestling against number 9 Heidi Trask, and that's going to be at the top seed Trinity, and they're going to, of course, play the winner of who I think Trinity's wrestling Farmville Central, so they'll go from there. And then in 5A, number 7 Seaforth will be wrestling against number 10 Havelock, and that's going to be at second-seeded Person High School when they do those first and second rounds. So just to kind of give a reminder, I know it's been crazy. We were supposed to have wrestling last week, and then it was supposed to come on this week as well, but that didn't happen, obviously. And well, actually, no, it was supposed to be this week, but that didn't happen. So we'll see if they can get it done next week, and we'll see if we can have a champion, maybe go into the deep rounds of the dual team wrestling playoffs. But also too, in other sports, swimming and diving as well, we had some announcements from the NCHSAA last week about that. So I think we already mentioned this, but just a reminder, the championships for swimming and diving will be from February 11th through the 14th. And that will be, let me pull it up. That will be, of course, at the Triangle Aquatic Center in Cary. So 1A, 2A, 3A is going to go from on Saturday, February 14th in the morning. And then 5A, which will include Seaforth, of course, Friday, February 13th, also in the morning. So those are swimming championships updates. And then indoor track and field reporting deadline for that one for the state qualifiers has been moved to Saturday, February 7th at 9 p.m. And then the championships, 1A, 2A, Wednesday morning at February 11th, 3A, Wednesday afternoon, also February 11th, and then 4A, Thursday afternoon on February 12th, and 5A will also be the next week, Wednesday afternoon on February 18th. So indoor track and field updates as well, and we'll see what who the qualifiers are locally there, and we'll let you guys know that. But over to basketball, pretty a lot of schedule changes there with basketball. So starting with the boys and girls, really lined up all together. So we can just do them all at once. But Woods and Chatham Charter, of course, will be played tonight. The second matchup there for the boys and girls, with the girls starting at 6 o'clock. And then tomorrow, Chatham Charter is going to be playing Southern Wake Academy for the boys side of things. That's a big conference game, right? Both of them tied at first in the conference, both undefeated. So we'll see how that one goes. And then also on the boys side and girls side as well, Woods Charter will be playing Central Carolina Academy tomorrow. Girls at 6, boys at 7:30. And then for Chatham Central, they just announced a new schedule update for themselves. And so the game against Bishop McGuinness that was scheduled for tonight is postponed until February 12th, so next Thursday. And then they will, I think, are still on to play South Stokes tomorrow with the girls starting at 6:30 and the boys at 8 o'clock. And over to Northwood, they're going to be at Jordan Matthews tonight at 7:30 for the boys, 6 o'clock for the girls. And then tomorrow night, they're doing another varsity doubleheader against Northmore starting at 6 o'clock with the girls as well. And then Seaforth, tomorrow, they're going to be playing at Webb, girls starting at 6, boys at 7:30. Big one for the boys side of things. Webb, second place, 5-1. Seaforth, first place, 7-1. So this is going to have some conference title implications down the line. And then Seaforth's going to pick it back up again the next day on Saturday in the afternoon with going to Cedar Ridge with the girls starting at 2 and the boys tipping off at 3:30. So those are just our recent basketball updates for the schedule through this weekend. Of course, I think some dates have already been set for next weekend. Oh, Northwood and Seaforth also, it was announced by Northwood that they're still looking to see if they can reschedule that second game against each other. And, of course, they played earlier in the season, I think in December, and they were supposed to play each other this week on – actually yesterday. I think they were supposed to originally scheduled for yesterday, but that didn't happen, of course, with still some areas dealing with some ice and slick roads. So, yeah, those are our updates. Like I said, we haven't had any basketball all of last week and pretty much leading up to this week until today and tonight. So not really many scores to go over. I think we did have Woods Charter playing last week twice. I think they played Raleigh Charter and I think Durham Academy. And we'll have more on what happened in there. But like I said, not many basketball scores this week.
Yeah, I was going to say for some reason I'm not coming on, but I just wanted to say Asheebo and I talked about this last week. Yeah, Seaforth and Northwood do want to play their basketball game, and they're doing everything they can to get that scheduled. But again, with the limited time period and the fact they have to get their conference games in, we'll see when that happens. I think we should know. Asheebo will post on Asheebo R38. It's one of those days. He will post. Let me show you where you can see it. He will post on Asheebo R38 on X when we find that information out. So I'm still trying to figure out how I can get me back on the split screen. But what do we have next to talk about, Asheebo?
Yeah, so I mean, on basketball, even though we didn't have scores, I do have some playoff projections from our good guys at High School OT that put these together, and this is as of Monday. We talked a little bit about them last week. With just looking through the RPIs, taking the top 48, splitting them in half, and then going from there. So as of Monday, on the boys side of things, looking at 1A, Chatham Charter still looking at a 2 seed in the West, Woods 5 seed in the West, and Chatham Central a 6 seed in the West. So all three of those teams still looking at getting a first round bye. In 3A, Northwood also in the running for a first round bye as a 7 seed in the East. In a very deep Eastern region for boys basketball in 3A as well. That's why Northwood, as good as they are, and have been this season, looking at that 7th seed there. But Jordan Matthews in 4A looking at a 13th seed in the East, and Seaforth in 5A looking at a 14 seed in the East. So those two teams looking to have an actual opponent in that first round. Then on the girls' side of things, in 1A, we'll have a split, more split landscape with the region here locally. So Chatham Central and Chatham Charter be both on the west, with Chatham Central looking at that 14 seed and Chatham Charter looking at that 13 seed. And then Woods on the east side will be looking at a 13 seed as well. And then in 3A, Northwood's going to be looking at a 4 seed in the east. And 4A, Jordan Matthews actually is still fighting their way into that playoff picture. They're actually right now, as of Monday, the first team out as the 49th team in the RPI standing. So, if they certain things bounce their way or they pick up some wins, they could creep back into the playoff picture and maybe get a low seed in a state tournament. But their playoff hopes are not completely over yet. And then Seaforth in 5A on the girls' side, looking at a 6 seed in the East as well. So those are just some quick look at what we could potentially see in the basketball playoffs in a couple of weeks. Of course, we still got lots of conference games to go with the cancellations and postponements from last week. And then we have conference tournaments as well to be played, and we'll see if those get played out. But, and another basketball update to mention as well, middle school championships that were originally scheduled to be at Northwood on February 13th have been pushed back to February 20th. And there's a possibility that it won't be at Northwood anymore. It could be at a different school. So we'll keep you guys updated on what's going on with the middle school championships as well.
All right. I still can't get on visual, so we're going to continue with Asheebo. Again, there is you don't have a power ranking this week because there's very few games played this last week. So, folks, it's not here and it's not in the paper. Is there anything else you want to touch on before you talk about what you have coming out in the paper today?
Yeah, we actually can. We got some big news and some big developments that we've heard of these past couple of days. Of course, before Friday's game with Seaforth last week when they played Durham School of the Arts at home, we found out Katie Leonard from the girls team was named a McDonald's All-American nominee. Unfortunately, she didn't make the McDonald's All-American final roster, but second straight year, Seaforth girls basketball had a McDonald's All-American nominee on its team, and pretty big honor for Leonard and the type of career she had, but also the season she's having as well as a senior. So, and also too, I think she had 8 threes in that game. And yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But also too, at Seaforth, they just recently had 3 athletes signed to their respective colleges. Colton Roberts signed to Pace University swimming. Ty Willoughby signed to Georgia College and State golf program. And then Ryan Yoder just signed to the Lynchburg track and field program as well. Pretty sure Ty and Ryan, both state champions, and have competed, for state championships in their career. So congrats to those 3 athletes actually for signing to their future programs. And then also too, big news just heard today from Northwood. Drake Powell is going to be coming back next Thursday when Northwood plays URA Charter at home. He's going to get his jersey retired. It's going to be hung in the rafters, and it's going to be, of course, exciting time to see Drake come back to Northwood. Of course, we saw that the team is wearing the warm-ups that look like the Brooklyn Nets logo. So, of course, community's been behind him all season. He's having a pretty good rookie year, and it'll be cool to see him come back. I think that's during the All-Star break is when he will have the time to come back next week. And once again, be in Northwood's gym, getting honored with his jersey in the rafters. So pretty cool to see. Well, pretty excited to see that next week as well. But yeah, Gene, you ready to talk about what's in the paper this week?
Yep, let's go and talk about what's in the paper. You got a big article about somebody who's up for another award. You mentioned Katie, but there's someone else who's up for a big award and is actually a finalist, if I'm not mistaken. Why don't you start off with that?
Yeah, so Cam Fowler, he was named a top 10 finalist for the Naismith Courage Award. If you guys remember, a couple years ago, Levi Perkins from Seaforth was named top 5 finalist, I think, for this award for returning to basketball after 2 injuries in his knees. But Cam, he was nominated by, of course, head coach Matt Brown at Northwood because of what he and his mom and his family have gone through since the day after Christmas. The day after Christmas, they had a house fire that unfortunately left them displaced. Since then, their house is no longer livable. So Cam has been living with his grandmother and his uncle, while his mom Kelly has been living with her fiance. And I got a chance to sit down with both of them last week and talk about just what they've been through since that day. And also too, it was a great to hear from them, just talking about the how they've been able to work through this new dynamic, because they've always lived together. That's pretty much all they've known. And of course, for Kelly, it was really emotional because this is her last year with Cam, and Cam's going to go on to college next year because he's a senior. But also too, but just surrounding the basketball aspect of it, Cam's been playing some really good basketball this year, the best you can say of his high school career. Once again, a 20-point per game scorer. He's been a relentless scorer and been on fire since the turn of 2026 in the second half of the season. So very consistent from him. And I mean, that was pretty much the big theme of the story, right? Just him being able to be consistent with basketball, because if you guys read it and watch our interview that we're going to have out on Gene's YouTube page as well. I mean, basketball is like his therapy. Is what he's done, what he does. It was what he did right after the house fire happened, and pretty much all he'll ever do as of right now, as far as getting to work through the displacement and helping out his mom as well, which is also included in the story. He got a job at Domino's before the house fire, just before, but is actually working out for the family now, because now Cam's able to make his own money and help himself out and take some of that pressure off of his mom with not having a home right now. So pretty heartwarming story, just about the perseverance of both of them to be able to work through this, and also with Cam being able to still be the same beast he is on the court, going through what he's going through. So we have a story on that out in the paper as well. And Gene, did you want to say something on that?
Yeah, I do want to say something because I was there videoing it. Sheila had about an hour-long conversation with both Cam and his mom, Kelly, and did a great job. And yeah, that was what Asheebo just mentioned about him getting. He mentioned, and you asked him about it. What was it? The fire happened like at 2-3 o'clock in the middle of the night, and he's on the basketball court in Northwood at 7 o'clock shooting basket, because he said that's what helps him calm down. The other thing you mentioned, and I did not ask any questions in this, was entirely an Asheebo interview with Cam and his mom, and went for about an hour. We broke it up into 3 sections, and it will be out on YouTube later this afternoon. The question I would have asked, since he works at Domino's, is what's his favorite pizza? And actually, Cam told us that he has actually made his own pizza. I think it's called the Cam Pizza. It's not on the menu, but you can order it, and maybe I'll get a video clip of him telling you exactly what it's on it, because it's got a bunch of ingredients. And I think he said the total of the pizza with all the stuff on it's over $20. So we'll get you the specifics on it, and maybe you can get a Cam Pizza from Domino's. But yeah, Sheila did a really nice job. And there were a couple of times Asheebo got Cam's mom tearing up, because it was look, man, if something like that happens, it's tough, especially in the middle of the night where it's just dark and you got all these. Yeah, you have to read the story and then watch the video. That's all I've got to say on that. Asheebo, sorry for interrupting. Go ahead and continue.
Oh, good. And yeah, so also in the paper this week, we have our stories from Seaforth boys and girls playing against Durham School of the Arts. Great night for both teams. Both teams rained some threes now. Like we said, Katie Leonard, I think, had 8 by herself in the girls' game, and then Campbell Metter and Declan Lindquist combined for 8 in the boys' game, and they got that one over by halftime. I think Declan had 20 points by the half, Campbell all 16 of his in the first half. So just a dominant performance for both of those teams there. And then we also have another college check-in, right, with some of our basketball players locally that are on in the college level. Some big games last week from Gabby White, Jaron Stevenson as well. A recap of his big game against Virginia and helping UNC come back in that one. But yeah, Gabby White also at Virginia, where she plays, in an overtime win over Wake Forest. That went into 3 overtimes. Actually, she had a career high 22 points, team high 9 made field goals, and she grabbed 12 rebounds to secure that double-double, her first one of her college career as well. And then she followed that with 15 points in a loss to Virginia Tech that Sunday. But she's showing flashes, rolling as a college athlete and fitting in well at Virginia and their system. So great to see her doing well. But we also have some updates on a few of our other local athletes in basketball, track and field, and fencing as well. So you guys can read about that in this week's paper. We also have our softball schedules, local softball schedules. So look ahead to that. They're going to get started February 25th. I think it's the first contest for the state. So we're going to have some teams play some scrimmages before then, but they're going to get started that week later on this month. And then we also have a look at our local swimmers set to compete in the state championships. So the qualifiers, of course, they got changed this year. I don't think there was a regional for the state championships because of the weather, but we have a whole bunch of qualifiers and athletes that will be competing for state championships. I expect we may see multiple state champions. Daisy Collins, who's looking for her another state championship, I think her third in her career in high school, will be once again competing for the 200 free and 500 free for Woods Charter. So some big names, and we'll see if they can get it done when the championships are conducted. So, yeah, that's all we have in this week's paper. And now, Gene, you ready to go over the athlete of the week?
Yeah, we're ready to go over the athlete of the week. Before we get there, you mentioned Gabby. I actually took a look at the Virginia women's basketball schedule, and unfortunately missed all their opportunities of them playing here, whether it's at UNC, Duke, or NC State or Wake Forest. All these games have passed. There's a game coming up at Virginia. I think UNC is going up there. I've got to check on that date, but love to have gotten pictures of Gabby playing here locally. Maybe we can grab her next year and see what happens. All right. Yes, let's go into who is Asheebo's athlete of the week this week.
Yeah, so like I said, we only had, I think, one team played all of last week. It was Woods Charter, and we're going to go there. Athlete of the week, will be Campbell Blackburn for the Woods Charter boys basketball team. Last week, he stepped up big in the absence of Levi Haygood, who I think was out with an illness. So he came in, had a career high 20 points in the 38-20 win over Raleigh Charter. And then in the following night, in the loss to Durham Academy, he followed that with 19 points as well. So big performances for him and stepping up in absence of one of his team's best players. But he's having a great season as well. So he's logged 7 games with at least 10 points this year. And earlier this year, if you guys remember, Campbell hit the buzzer beater to beat Phoenix Academy 69-68 as well in one of those tournaments. I think it was a holiday tournament earlier this year. So that was a big moment for him and the team. And Woods Charter, like we said, they're right there in the race, competing for a conference title in the Central Tar Heel 1A conference. Now, I think all the boys teams in that conference are chasing Southern Wake Academy. But if Woods can get a win tonight against Chatham Charter, that would be huge for their chances of staying in that race as well.
Yep. So Campbell, congratulations on that opportunity, being Asheebo's athlete of the week. All right. Where are we going to be this week? I know PJ is going to be shooting the Woods games tonight. I will be at Northwood tomorrow. Speaking of which, coming up on Saturday, apparently game day is going to be at UNC from 10 to 12 o'clock. We'll get more information out there. It's at UNC, just down the road for most people. If you've never been to a game day event at basketball, it's worth going and checking that out and seeing what that's like. So when we have more information, we will let you know. So Asheebo, where are you going to be at today and tomorrow?
Yeah, so today I'll be with PJ at Woods Charter for basketball between Woods and Chatham Charter, excuse me. That'll be a big one, of course, for both boys and girls, rivalry and conference title implications. And then tomorrow I'll be making the drive up to Webb for C4 basketball. Big one on the boys' side of things, right? Like we said, chance for C4 to really strengthen their hold over that first place lead in the conference. And then Webb is clawing to stay in the race, right? Second place right there, right behind C4. But it's a pretty tight race between C4 and Webb or just South Granville. Of course, C4 still has to play South Granville and Orange to close out the year. So it'll be huge. C4 can get that win tomorrow night and see if they can close the deal. Well, not just yet, but make it easier to close the deal on that conference title.
All right, folks. So you have a rundown. There's Asheebo's X account name. We've got 3 games covered for you. You got the Woods game covered tonight. You got Northwood covered tomorrow, and you got the Seaforth game covered tomorrow. So we will see you all on Thursday. Don't forget to follow Asheebo at Asheebo R38. Remember to pick up the paper, read all the articles that he mentioned, all the stories that he mentioned, to be up to date with everything that's going on. And we will have Asheebo's interview with Cam and his mom, Kelly, up on YouTube later on this afternoon. So thank you so much for being here. Hey, you know what? Just enjoy the rest of the week. Hopefully this weather will get a little bit better and we'll get back to some kind of regular schedule. All right, Asheebo, anything else before we sign off?
Nope. I think we covered everything we could have. Yeah, all the schedule changes, all the news that came out, and some other updates with our other sports as well. So, like I said, thank y'all for continuing to support, to watch us. We appreciate the kind words we get in person and online as well with our coverage. So, once again, like I always say, if you guys see us out at any of the schools, any of the events, don't hesitate to say hello. And
right, and you'll if you're at a basketball game, you will see Asheebo sitting in the stands with the fans. However, I will let you know that he's keeping tabs on the score. He's got his stat sheet in front of him, so you can sit next to him, but don't interrupt him. Talk to him during timeouts while he's keeping stats on all the stuff that's going on the court. All right, folks, we will see you next Thursday.